What up,
motor
though?
oils
What up, though?
are made from natural gas. Gives you unbeatable engine protection. Proofs in the Pennzoil based on Sequence 4A wear test using SAE 5W30. I want to dig into the Steelers, your team, in just a second, but just give me a one-number answer here, okay? We were discussing this earlier. How many more years does Belichick coach the Pats? Just give me a number.
4.
So Bart thinks he might walk the end of this season. Is that crazy? I think that's crazy.
You can't just say that.
No,
You gotta
I don't
give me
think he
time to
walks.
explain.
I think now he has a new challenge. Now you understand he has an opportunity to build. And when you look at a guy like Bill Belichick, he never necessarily ran from challenges. He tried to get into the best place for him. But this is an opportunity in New England where he's built his legacy to turn this thing around and to turn this thing around without Tom Brady. And who knows? They might have Jimmy Garoppolo next year and all is well. All of these guys who opted out are back. And the 5-year plan that they had where they said they went all in and they went to 3 championships now becomes another 5-year plan. So I don't think he quits after this year.
First, you can't just throw that out there, Zoob. You got to let me put the context of what I'm talking about. He's been telling Josh McDaniels that he was going to give him his world. Remember, Josh McDaniels turned down the head coaching job in Indianapolis. At some point, Bill Belichick's going to have to move on, and he won't be able to keep his top assistant, and he might want to give him his world. But Bill Belichick's always had a love for the New York Football Giants. And you talk about Joe Judge being one of his proteges that's come from him. He would probably want to go back there and maybe be the general manager of the New York Football Giants as well. And plus, he can only hurt his legacy there in New England. They're going to be part of a rebuild. You can talk about bringing Jimmy G in, but even if you bring Jimmy G in, Jimmy G will be the 4th best quarterback in the division. So the shifts has changed.
Listen, it's definitely a rebuild, though, Bart. I think to me, and listen, he probably doesn't matter to Bill Belichick. If he leaves after this year, I don't see that as retiring. I don't see that as resigning. I see that as quitting. I see that as your star quarterback, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, left. He went somewhere else. You tried to do it 1 year. You didn't like it and you quit. And to me, that would affect his legacy more than him trying to rebuild this thing and it not coming to fruition and him having to pass it on to Josh McDaniels.
RC, I like the suit, by the way. Looking sharp like always. Let's talk about the Steelers for one quick second. What does missing practice time for a guy like Big Ben, what does that do to him?
Well, as Ben has gotten older, he started to take off Wednesday practices anyway. Obviously, he won't be able to be in the meetings. Maybe he's in them, from a Zoom perspective. But I don't necessarily know if the on-field practice hurts a guy like Big Ben as much as it could a young quarterback or a quarterback without chemistry with some of his playmakers. And now what it is that, and you know this as well, Bart, and you know this, Jay, sometimes those practice reps help you get your body ready, help you kind of flush some things out to get you prepared to play on Sunday. It's not the mental part that I think will hurt Ben Roethlisberger as much as him having to get in the groove of actually throwing the football, of moving around a little bit after having a week of inactivity.
How crazy would it be if Ben is not able to go this week and they lose to the Bengals, and that's the blemish on the record, and that's the game that they lose that makes that Thanksgiving game with the Ravens, for the division potentially?
Well, you know what I would say right now? Coach Tomlin don't deserve that, Bart. That's what I know. He is too good of a man and too good of a coach for this to be the way that they get their first loss of the season. But that's 2020, bro. Like, that's the year that we live in. And especially with the heightened cases and now the heightened sensitivity or the protocols in the NFL, where if you are even near a guy or if the contact tracing says you were close to someone who tested positive for COVID, you have to be out of the facility. You have to quarantine. And I think it's the right thing to do for the health of the players, for the health of the league. But it's a very difficult thing to deal with if you're a team, and especially when you lose your dude, when you lose your franchise quarterback, your future Hall of Famer. That's a tough pill to swallow, but that's part of it. And Coach Tomlin always says the standard is the standard and don't blink and all those things. Well, Joe Burrow has this team playing well, and to lose to the Cincinnati Bengals, a game you would expect to win if Ben Roethlisberger plays, would be a very tough blow to the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Now, I know that Ben Roethlisberger is Scrooge McDuck, so he has plenty of money. But, with his knees and his injury, how is he able to recover at home when he doesn't have the facility to which get the treatment that he probably needs to get healthy?
Man, these dudes got loot, man, and I did most
All
of my
quarterbacks,
treatment
even
outside
the
of the
bad
building,
ones.
and I didn't have, even most of the bad ones. Unless you're Cam Newton, the rest of them get paid. When you look at what Ben can do, and you look at him probably having a team assembled, and also not necessarily knowing how bad this knee injury is, I think he'll be okay. Maybe some rest, or maybe he wouldn't have practiced anyway if the knee was that bad. I think the other part of it is I played with Ben, bro. Ben is the king of injury diagnosis publicly, and playing the next week. So I'm not necessarily concerned with Ben Roethlisberger's health and him playing.
Are you confirming he's a little bit of a drama king, RC?
Yeah.
Is that what you're confirming now?
No, I'm confirming he doubles as a doctor in his off time, and he knows how to diagnose himself.
Yeah.
All right, how about Brett Favre? He made some comments about Nick Foles should have stayed in Philadelphia. They should never had Carson Wentz. They should have chose Nick Foles over Carson Wentz. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think my thoughts are he must only be paying attention to the Nick Foles that actually plays in Philadelphia, because the dude that's played everywhere else is sort of terrible, right? He's not necessarily a very good quarterback. I mean, he's downright bad right now in Chicago. He was bad enough to be beat out once he returned from injury by Gardner Minshew, who's a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's not, but you don't normally put your 6th round draft pick rookie ahead of your $26 million a year quarterback. And so I don't necessarily know if that was the case. He was getting older. He wasn't necessarily as explosive, or didn't have the measurables that Carson Wentz had. So I think they made the right decision for what they needed going forward. You look back, Nick Foles gave you a hell of a year, a hell of a Super Bowl run. But I think when you watched him, if you truly paid attention, a guy like Doug Peterson, who was in the building with him every day, he knew this is who Nick Foles was, and eventually he would come out. Can you imagine Nick Foles playing with Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward and Boston Scott, and having to create, having to work, and having to do? I don't think he even does as well as Carson Wentz is doing right now.
That's why I hate when my icons get modern day technology, man. Brett Favre need to be in the woods in Mississippi shooting stuff, or ski shooting or something like that, man. I hate the fact that he's getting toys because he's talking too much, and now I got to call him Brett Favre.
That's what Paul Tagliabue accidentally called him when he announced him.